Okay, so I made a little bit of modifications, so I'm going to do this again. So I've actually changed it to blue, green, and then red, so I see blue more often because I realize it never actually reaches a low enough temperature to become blue, because by that point the fan spins so slowly, which I like, but I like the blue lights too. So anyway, so it's now blue. I am going to run some stuff. It is now running. That's great. All the CPUs are crunching away. So, yeah, going back here, this changes by itself, so I gotta fix that afterwards, but anyway, I can set all the information pages to display and not advance to the next one. I'm gonna do that tomorrow because it's kind of late now, but anyway, so that's the CPU water. It is, oh, there we go, it just started to rise. So, as you can see already, at the start of the video, that LED was blue. It has now just turned green. So, that is great. So, there's that ramp. Temperatures, 31.4. What I really like about this is that this is a lot more stable than the Lamptron FC5 version 2 controller that I had before. Granted, that one wasn't bad. It did its job for the longest time, but I needed something more advanced. So this thing is made in Germany, and that pretty much speaks for itself. So let's see here. That is a very nice graph. So there is that green LED. It will turn red eventually, but I'm not going to wait that long. So I'm going to show you guys what I did. So there's this controller. Okay, great. There's a little bit of light. Anyway, ramp is going up. So how did I set this up so that the LED turns green? Well, just go into it, and the very first item, you can go left and right, but whatever. It's the very first one. So I went into sensors, and okay, I'm sorry, sensors, not system. Okay, so we are using the virtual sensors portion of this. Okay, that's not zooming in very well. Virtual sensors. Okay, so I set up one of the sensors. I don't need any of the others yet, but I set up the first one, CPU plus GPU. My first data source is the GPU water temperature, and my second data source is the CPU water temperature. I did not use a third one, and the mode that I set was for highest temperature. So whichever one is the highest, that is the temperature that will be reported from this virtual sensor. So the way that this entire controller works is there's an input or a sensor, there's a controller it decides how to manipulate the signal or what to do with it, the action to perform based on the signal, and then there is an output like a fan controller, an LED, or water pumps, or you can get accessories for this thing. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, so this is only the sensor part, so I've just configured what I want the sensor to do. Now the controller, there's an actual section for the RGB LED controller. Now this is just the software part. So now I set up here, what do I want to read? So I select the virtual sensor, which is labeled here CPU plus GPU. Now if you don't configure it, it won't be on this list. So it's pretty neat that way. So before I was struggling to figure out why I couldn't select it, but it was because it just wasn't configured. It was set up to read no data, so it wasn't showing up in this list. I set it up, now it's showing up, great. So CPU plus GPU, and remember it's the highest of either. You can set it up different ways, you can set up the average or whatever. I did not do that. This is just the highest, because that's all that concerns me. So low temperature, you can set what the low temperature is at. I set it for 30 degrees. The low temperature makes the blue LED go to 100%, green LED to 0, red LED to 0. So it's just the blue. You can have any combination of these three colors for your low, optimal, or high. Optimum, it's 32 degrees. Green is 100%. I can assure you that the other ones are 0. And high temperature is 33 degrees. The red is 100%, and all the other ones are 0. So that's pretty much it. I did not play around with the pulsating yet. That will maybe come in the future, but not now. So now the outputs. So the output has its own LED settings output. For the red LED, I told it to read the RGB LED controller that outputs the red LED signal. So I pretty much just matched up the controllers to the individual diodes on the LED. So red goes to red, green goes to green, blue goes to blue. You get the idea. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Normal operation. You can set it up for a whole bunch of stuff. You can make it blink. That's pretty cool. I just noticed that. So anyway, so that's how I got it to do what I wanted to do. So now either the water temperature or the CPU temperature, whichever one is hotter, the LED will display the status of that. So that is pretty freaking cool, and I can imagine you can do this with a whole bunch of stuff.